I can access.
I'm in, Damien.
Did you just go to the link, Suzanne?
Yes, I went to the link.
But
Copy link. Put
I
it.
still don't see it.
Have you gotten any announcements?
No, I have not. That's
Sorry.
I remember I emailed you. I was like, I thought something was starting.
And I received your email, Jill, but I never received anything else. So, and I realized I was waiting for because it said a Bright Space course was coming, and I realized I never received that. But I was able to get in with this link from Damien.
I'm not able to get in with that. What I got into digitally enhancing your nursing course, but it's just a Google Drive. It's just a Google document. I have a Google Doc. Is there a link to Brightspace in the Zoom? Is that what you're saying? Courses, okay.
Laura, you're in there. Maybe you need to go into the student mode because I saw you on the class list.
Okay.
You have to go to student mode.
Okay.
Or yeah, there's a tab like
progress profile, no settings.
All right, so I'm going to send out this announcement that has the link in it. So let me know if you guys get the announcement. Maybe if you get it, you'll know you're in the course, and then you can just follow the link. So that should have gone to your email.
Thank you. I'll check it that way. Is anyone on campus? Okay.
Everyone's at home. Okay, well, welcome, guys, and thank you so much for being here. We were just talking about how to access our Brightspace course. You're in, Laura?
Correct. I'm in now. Thank you.
Did you go through the announcement?
The announcement. I went through the announcement.
So I just sent everybody an announcement. You should be able to click on that link and then access the course. So Damien, how should we start out? You want to go over show the Brightspace course first?
Yeah, sure. We could do a quick course tour.
Okay. Do you want to share your screen?
Sure. Let me switch to learner view. Just a sec here.
Well, that's a good idea, huh? When you are sharing your course with students, to go to learner view. Oh, now you're muted.
Oh, I was just grumbling that it's fighting me.
I like your fall background.
I gotta get in the spirit of the thing, right? It is my favorite time of the year, though.
Yeah, me too.
It really is. All right, I should have it now. All right, folks can see this?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm in learner view. And, one of the interesting things that we tried with this course was to rework the homepage to use, I don't know if folks have seen this welcome widget. So essentially you can create a bunch of content under a tab entitled welcome. And if you build individual HTML files, it'll render so that the first time your students log in, they'll get this pop-up. So you can give them whatever information they need for getting started. You can place your welcome video here. So just a handy little feature we were playing around with, we wanted to kind of highlight. So everyone's seen the welcome announcement. Just gonna cut over to the content here real quick. So again, we're envisioning this more as a resource site, a place that, as we work through these modules, you'll be able to come back and see the various resources that we have here, trying to model kind of what a good, solid, evidence-based navigation and course site design will look like. So we we kick it off with an introduction forum. And for this forum, I'm not sure if people have been using the video note feature that's inside of Brightspace. So there's a brief video here that kind of gives you a walkthrough of the way it works, but just to start a new thread here. You're familiar with this insert stuff button? Anywhere you see this HTML editor, you're going to see the insert stuff button, and that'll allow you to go ahead and choose to create a video note. So you would add a video note. So this has up to 30 minutes of recording time. So this is perfect for when, if you're trying to share a PowerPoint or some kind of whiteboard, it'd work much better to use Zoom for something like that. But if it's just some sort of announcement you want to make or some kind of brief comments, this works perfectly. Like I said, wherever you see that insert stuff button, you can add a video note. So that means even when you're grading, you'll see you can add a video note to student assignments. So it's a good way to give some kind of, personalized feedback using that tool. The other thing I'm a big fan of is asking students to use it for video introductions. So they can use audio, video, they can just do audio if they prefer, but it kind of makes more of a kind of rich and engaging experience, especially at the front end when folks don't know each other, haven't heard each other. It can be helpful for that. And then just during the course of the semester, it can also be helpful to kind of mix up how your discussion boards are working and maybe have 1 week where you ask folks, this week we're going to do our discussion board using the video note tool. So it's a handy little tool. Like I said, it just adds another dimension to interaction, because we all know the discussion board gets to be a bit text heavy and monotonous, over the course of the semester. So just a cool tool to check out and find ways to incorporate. So for module 1, we're doing course mapping. So we have our kind of high level learning outcomes here. And I assume most folks are starting with a syllabus. So we're not like necessarily starting from scratch. So we know like those course level outcomes that we're shooting for, but this is really about aligning those course level outcomes to your module level learning objectives. So that's the transparency piece for students, letting them know that this is what I'm asking you to do. This is why it matters, and this is how it'll help you achieve the broader kind of learning objectives. So we're going to take a look at that today. So we have some resources here. These links go out to our CTEL course design site, and it's just built in Google Sites. There's lots of good information in there. And again, more of a resource, not like mandatory reading, but a great place to start. And then also Jill and I have been trying to incorporate some of the resources that are available in the AQ course. So they have some great kind of templates and handouts. So there's some great information about creating your micro lectures and how to use video effectively, and what sort of length of video you want, and thinking about production value and what really matters and what doesn't. So that's a helpful walkthrough. So Jill's added this kind of Bloom's enhanced chart here. So those are the action verbs that we think of in terms of how we write our learning objectives, and then at what level we want students to demonstrate. So it's just helpful. It can kind of give you, a blueprint for how to write out your learning objectives, and then think in terms of how that objective aligns to the actual content and the actual assignment students that you're going to ask them to do, and then how they'll be assessed. So you're going to spell out exactly what you're shooting for, what kind of activity is going to take place, where they're going to build that knowledge or skills, and then how they'll be assessed. So this one's helpful And as we go forward, we'll start thinking about different learning types and aligning them to different activities and, different platforms and software tools that can help us hit those various areas. So I'm not sure if folks have seen a course map. There's a few in here resource-wise, and it's kind of standard. It's really just like a fill in the blank table that lets you think through those elements that are in your course. What are the activities and assignments? What sort of assessments are you using, and how do those help students achieve your stated learning objectives? So we wanted this all to culminate, and you'll see that we have kind of a lesson assessment checklist where we do a bit of a breakout and, just look at an individual module level and just think through your alignment, think through how you're phrasing your learning objectives, think through how you're assessing those learning objectives. So it just gives you a way to, step through those. And then we also, as we go forward, we wanted to highlight different learning activities that you can incorporate into your course. And with things like this, it's very helpful if, a student is in a program. So we're highlighting Think, Pair, Share here. So if they experience using Think, Pair, Share for synchronous sessions, you can even use it asynchronously on a discussion board. But, once they've had exposure to that activity, they don't have to relearn it every time. So it's helpful if you introduce this early on, and then you can use it later down the road. So it is, we are releasing our content module by module, so it's not an overwhelming amount of information, but we'll work from one module to the next. And so that was the idea here today, that we would work towards kind of a breakout session where we're using the Think, Pair, Share. So I don't know if folks are in there looking at the course site now. It would be helpful to start by taking a look at the Think, Pair, Share activity and how that plays out. And then we can kind of talk through, looking at the course map. Jill has some examples for mapping, and also to talk about, we have this fun little tool. It's called a workload estimator. It's very important when you're planning the activities and assessments that you're going to be providing feedback for. It's important for students, that you get that right balance, but it's also important from your end about what you're setting yourself up for. So it's just kind of a fun tool that you can play with, and you can calibrate the different amount of readings and activities and how much time on task those, an estimate of what those would require. So I'll stop sharing.
So Damien, I thought it might be a good idea to do an example of that workforce calculator. So I'm just gonna share my screen really quick, but then I'll have you share again, and maybe you can ask me for the variables, and I'll give them to you and you can insert them in there.
Sure.
So can you guys all see my screen? You can see it okay? Okay. So I thought we could use this one here. This is something I grabbed from, I think, 663, and it has, I put some of the time in here so that we could kind of take a look at this and go through and use that workload calculator, because this was something that was really new to me. So in our, I'm just going to pull up something where you guys, I always talk about this credit hour policy, but really, if you're saying you're teaching a 3-unit course, then you should have over 15 weeks, 3 hours of lecture, and then students should have at least 6 hours of out of course time for undergraduates. And then some places will say you should have, you should multiply that credit hour by 3 to get the amount of time you would have out of the course or out of the classroom. So that would be 9 units for graduates. So for a 7-week class, you'd multiply that all by 2. So it's really important if you're thinking about, okay, how am I going to develop this course so that it does equal this credit hour policy that we have. Anybody have any questions on that? So for most of our 7-week courses, we say it's about 18 to 20 hours per week. And then the only other thing I wanted to show you guys is really when, I know in our last faculty meeting, Carla said we should really be writing our goals or our new, when we're thinking about competency-based education, we shouldn't really be writing objectives. We should be writing outcomes. So I just had a slide in here where, and I'll put these slides into our Brightspace, but it says learning goals and objectives generally describe what an instructor, program, institution aims to do. Learning outcomes describes observable, measurable terms and what a student is able to do. So I think we just have to be thinking about that as we're transitioning to a competency-based education model. So I am going to be looking at this, and I'm going to turn the share over to Damien. If you can pull up that workload calculator, and we can input some of this information into there. We'll see if this lesson is supposed to be 1 week. It's supposed to be about 20 hours. And this is a practicum course here. So the class duration is one of the first variables you put in, so that's 7.
Okay.
And so the reading assignments, they have 3. So we've got 6 pages, 8 pages, and another 6 pages. So I think that's 20. And
You can
is
get
it
extremely fine-grained with this if you want to.
And if I was playing around with it, and if you go into the link at the top, it'll tell you how it estimates the page density. And it said mostly academic journals, I think, were 450 words per page.
So
The difficulty with this, I would say it's, what do you think? I'd say some new concepts, because they should have already had this information in their research course. And they should be understanding it is the purpose. Okay. And then writing, they don't do any writing in this course, or this lesson. We're just talking about this lesson here. And for their videos that they watched, they had 2. One of them was 10 minutes. And the other one was 20.
So
30 minutes, yeah, 0.5. Discussion post, they don't have any. No exams. And they are doing live class meetings. If we jump down one there, that's 1 hour. And then each week they do about 7 hours of practicum experience. So I think we could put that under other assignments.
others.
Yeah, so that'd be about 7 hours. So if we look down at the bottom, did it calculate the 7 hours yet?
Yeah, workload estimates total 2. So what it's doing to us here is it's actually spreading it over 7. So let me adjust that to 1. Huh?
Oh, okay.
So now.
So it didn't put that 7 in, I don't think.
Didn't.
Per semester.
Let's just say 1. Oh, there we go.
Okay. So the total workload estimate for this, we're saying it should be about 18 to 20, and it's only 9. So it's just an example. I'm sure there's something that I didn't do right in there.
Yeah, we might have missed something.
What is that independent? Should you click hours per assignment independent? Should that be clicked?
So
or
those
not?
aren't live sessions, those are independent, right? Well, it didn't change.
Jill, I'm wondering, because this is a practicum, right?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if maybe what's here isn't capturing the independent work they do to prep for their practicum. Like,
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would probably fall into, and I think the other thing we've got going on here is that this is really designed for an entire course. So I think if we were to multiply all this by 7 or something like that, I think it would get us closer to, I think we're asking it to do something that it's not.
Yeah, it's probably not good for a practicum course too. But
this would be light reading, it seems like. I mean, compared to other courses for a week.
yeah. Right.
For a grad course.
But I was just, from having nothing to having something like this, I think it's such a great way you can go in and get a general idea, you know, like how would you even know? You know, I see a lot of people start designing courses and you're going into looking at the learning outcomes and you're like, oh, this reading's great and this reading's great. And oh, this chapter in this book and this book that are all good too. And you just start thinking like, you know, this is all, you know, really great stuff for people to read, but then you go in and really think about, okay, well, how many hours do they have? And some of the stuff maybe could be moved to resources, and you only want to put the material that you've mapped out that they really need in order to succeed and meet that outcome for that week.
Yeah, I think it's a great tool to get an estimate. I have
Laura,
a
do you have a
tendency to keep
question?
wanting to add.
Yeah.
I
Sorry
do
to
have,
interrupt.
I do have a question. Sorry to interrupt. With the original calculation, you said it's a 7-week class, and let's say it's a 3-credit class, and it's meeting. Can you just go over that original calculation of what our program at USM expects for the amount of hours of work? Like if it's a 7-week class and it's 3 credits, what do we expect our students? Is it 3 times 3? So that would be 9 hours per week, and then doubled because it's condensed into 7 weeks. So that would be 18 hours. Am I understanding it the right way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So the only thing really that I've seen on our website is a statement that 1 credit hour or 1 unit equals 15 hours. So these are really set by this was the one I grabbed was from the Department of Education. So most universities will use that definition there. But that's for 15 for a 15-week course. So you do have to do multiplications, and some universities actually have like a calculator, so you can put in if it's 7 weeks, you know, and then how much of the time should be in classroom. But then what about an online course? You know, you don't have that classroom time. So you kind of have to think about those resources that you have, or say you had a micro lecture in your course, we would think about that being what you might do in a course. So anything that you're thinking, okay, this is what I would do in a live course with in-person interaction with students, that you can kind of think of or equate that as that time of the, you know, the lecture time, or those three hours that you would have. And all the rest of the things would be, you know, the out of classroom time.
Okay. I think I understand that.
Yeah. So 3 units or 3
Credits.
credit course would be 3 hours of direct faculty interaction or in-person time for 15 hours. But then for 7 weeks, you would multiply that by 2, and that would be 6 hours. And then the out of classroom time would be, you take that 3 and multiply it by 2 for undergraduate, 3 for graduate, although that's not official at USM, that's just a basic calculation. And so then we get 3 times 3 for a graduate course would be 9. And for a 7-week course, you multiply that by 2 again. And so that would be 18. So we say our courses are about 18 to 20 hours for online main.
I mean, that's a lot of work.
That's a lot. Yeah.
That's a lot of work. And
Right.
these folks are working, and yeah, I don't know that they enter the course knowing that, right?
Well, when Danielle and
theoretically
I,
they do.
when we advise them, we make sure that they're aware of that. And we also try to put that in all of the syllabi so that it says that in there. But you can't really wrap your head around it, right? When you're entering a program, like, wow, that's a lot of work.
Right, right. And this calculator is an objective way of understanding that time commitment.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I'm such a geek because I'm so excited about this. So what we can do now is we can have you, does everybody have their course map or their lesson map with them that they could go into a breakout group and you could do that workload estimator with the partner?
I started mine, but I didn't finish it in terms of plugging in the domains. And I was wondering, does anyone have a PDF of all the advanced nursing domains all together instead of looking at each little block individually?
Well, I
Is
think
there-
for this assignment today, you really don't have to put in the AACN domains.
Right.
What you can really just do is have your lesson outcomes and then have
Got
those mapped to your inputs and outputs of your course, you know, the resources and your evaluations. So if you have that, you know, that might be something you could just work on in your breakout group is, you know, even if you, like we had in our intro video, if you have your course calendar where you're saying the outcomes of that lesson and what the assignments, reading assignments are and the evaluation is, you can pop that into Blueprint. And this is, I'll put in the chat box the blueprint that we were using.
Can we just do it all together because there's so few of us? Because I don't
Yeah.
have an online course right now.
Yeah, we could do that.
That'd be cool to see.
Does anyone want to volunteer their blueprint? Are there just 6 of us, 5 of us here? Sometimes I can't see everybody who's here. Yes, that makes sense.
I was going to start it. I started it and then realized we were just working on one module. And so in the course I want to work on 636, I'm actually revising it. So I started looking at the module of what I wanted to revise. And so I didn't get any further, but we could look at the original course map that was developed for that course and go across a module, unless someone else has one that we did for this.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I didn't start. I got stuck because I want to do a revision to the core tool module. And that's what I thought I'd be doing in this. So
yeah, I did the same thing too, Linda. I started mapping something out and then as I was doing it, like I made all these comments on the side, like, oh, change this. So it's so hard to like just look at it the way it was without thinking about how it can be better. And
right. It was like I didn't want to do the work as is because I want to make the changes.
Yeah, but if you want to, I have an example, or we can use, mine is practicum, so maybe yours would be better since it's a didactic course. Do you want to share your screen if you have it?
Sure. No, I didn't. I'm using the original that was developed for this course. So if someone has something more current, it's 636's course map.
What is 636?
I'm
What's the
sorry,
name of that course?
636 is Foundations of Nursing Education. It's
Okay.
oftentimes the first course that students take in the education track.
Okay. Foundation of Nursing Education.
Can you see the screen?
Yes, I can. This is
Okay,
still
so
interesting to me.
we have a checklist. So let's go through our checklist as we're doing this. So I'm going into the Brightspace course. And the checklist is called the Lesson Map Assessment Checklist. So I'm going to pull that up. It asked me to make a copy. And then what I'll do is I'll share this with you guys and you can all go into the checklist and we can make little comments on it for Linda. So
Now, the other thing that's not listed on here are the times that each one of these things is. So I'm not sure we'll be able to do the calculator. Like I don't have how many pages of reading and all that.
yeah, I had to go into each of my readings and
Yeah, I don't have
do that
any
before.
of that. Or even the times. I have it on my Brightspace class. I think the times for the videos, but not here. And
Is
this
this
might
the
not even
same-
be.
Is this the same document that you shared with us, Jill? Or is this an older?
No, this is when
course?
yeah, AP started working
Okay.
with all the subject matter experts. This
Okay.
was the map that they had everybody fill out.
Okay.
Is it more confusing to use this, Jill, than to just use your current one?
No, this is fine. It's a great example. So can you guys go into the chat box and go to the checklist? Go to
Jill,
that link there.
I can't get into the link. It says I need I request.
Let me share with everybody.
Chat. Okay.
Okay, you should be able to get in there now. So I think you have to, Linda, did you go to the one that I linked to in the chat box? I see Laura's in there. And Suzanne's in there.
Yeah, I'm in there too. I think if you just refresh.
Okay, I'm in there now.
Okay. All right, so let's go back to your lesson map. And the first thing we want to look at alignment of CLOs and MLOs. So does each module learning outcome map back to a course learning outcome? So if you'll share your...
Am I not sharing now?
You're sharing the checklist.
All right, let's see. Sorry. I don't know how that happened.
No problem.
Am I sharing it now? All right.
Yes.
All right.
All right, so we have over on the left that what is that? I guess just the major topics for that week, and then the second column is the lesson.
This column are the module outcomes. So this is the topic module outcomes linked to the course outcomes.
So that looks like we could say yes, and without getting into the weeds there, and we could just accept that those are correct. So each one of those relates back to a course outcome.
And then the second column are the outputs. So either individual collaborative activities or discussions. So individual collaborative activities, and then discussions.
Okay, so the next thing on this is, do the module learning outcomes use appropriate Bloom's level verbs? So I think as we're doing course revisions and lesson revisions, we're changing to competency-based education, if we're looking at those current lesson outcomes in that second column there, how do those, how do you guys think those relate to the Bloom's taxonomy verbs? And Linda, can you blow that up to like 150? So our first verb is relate. So what level is that? And is that a Bloom's verb?
I think we have to go back to the list. It's like having
know.
several documents at the
it's-
same time, which is a
In-
little challenging.
In the checklist, there is a hyperlink to a Bloom's reference or resource. So I'm looking at the one on the slide. So relate historical events. What level is that? Are they remembering? Are we asking students to remember, to understand?
Isn't it like associating? I don't see the Bloom's list. And I don't know how to get to it with the screen share.
Yeah, I'm having trouble just having it, and I'm afraid to lose my screen share.
If you check on the link that's in the checklist, can you get there on your own computer? Everyone except for Linda.
Chat, so go back to chat. Google checklist. And then Bloom's levels.
So are we asking them to remember historical events? Or are we asking them to understand them? What are they actually doing if they're relating historical events to things that happen in nursing? It's
So
more of
relate-
like a compare and contrast thing.
Yeah, it sounds like applying it, right? So you're gonna relate this new concept to another concept. Is that what we're asking them to do? Or are we asking them to just recall and remember?
They're really remembering. They're really recalling in the activity that they're doing in the discussion. They're recalling, but also drawing on the implications of those for nursing education, in terms of what are the implications of those historical events. But I'm trying to pull up Bloom's.
So that's like understanding, explain ideas and concepts. Distinguish, illustrate between factual knowledge and conceptual knowledge, huh?
I feel like it's applying.
Relate is under apply.
Yeah.
They're applying the historical events to the trends in nursing education.
So on the lesson blueprint, the lesson map that I used, I made a new row for each one of the lesson outcomes. So that's in the one that we have shared with you guys, that blueprint. You could actually put 1.1 on its own row. And now that we've determined, okay, this is relate, and we're talking about apply, then we can go across and say, okay, well, where is the, what kind of resources do the students need to meet this outcome? So if we walk across there, Linda, what do we have? We have Billing and Halstead, chapter 1.
Yes, hold on. I'm not on my screen share now. I'm really struggling with. Are you seeing it now?
Yep.
Okay.
So whoever developed this did a really good job of mapping out. So we can go to the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th column there, and we can see there the first chapter there is mapped back to module outcome number 1. So if you wanted to create a whole new row, you could put one lesson outcome 1.1 or module outcome 1.1 in one row. And then in this 5th column here, where I think that's, can't see the top of that one, but it's probably the readings that students have to do. We put that one in that same row. So we would know that, okay, these are the resources the students need to meet this outcome. And you can look at it and say, okay, is that enough there? And then you can do the same with the YouTubes there. A lot of times readings will, you know, they'll cover more than one of those outcomes, but so, you know, it might not always work dividing them up into rows, but I think that it's such a key part is making sure that first taxonomy, that verb there is correct so that you can map it all the way across and say, okay, am I doing the right thing? And even in backwards design, a lot of times you'll say, okay, what I want them to do is to know about, you know, how Florence Nightingale, write this paper about Florence Nightingale, or know this information, and then walk it backwards and say, okay, they need this reading, and then I'm making this outcome. So there's a lot written about backwards design as well, which I'm sure you guys know all that. So what's our next thing on our checklist? Do you want to look at the rest of the verbs, or you want to go on to the alignment of course inputs and outputs? We kind of did all that in one thing.
Let's do the alignment of the course inputs and outputs.
Okay. So let's jump down to maybe 1.2. Appraise the utility of teaching theories from other disciplines. So first of all, what is that verb?
Appraise.
Appraise, and that would be, that's number 2 on analyzing at that level. So that's what they should be doing, students should be doing. And then what do we have, Linda, there for the input? So what resources do students have to meet that one?
What inputs do they have? They have
Yeah.
their, hold on for a second. They have some videos, a TED Talk, and they have a chapter in, they have a couple of journal articles for various theories, and a chapter in harassment. So they have some chapter readings from a textbook and a couple of journal articles that are mapped to the second module outcome, and videos.
Okay. And then, so the next part is the outputs. How are we assessing that this outcome is being met? So how do we know that students are able to appraise the utility of teaching theories from other disciplines?
That this is weaved into the discussion for week 1.
So is that column there discussions?
This one is the discussion. Yeah, these 2 columns are the outputs.
Okay.
It's not really, I mean, now when I look at this, it's not really, this is their introduction, and their introduction addresses number 3, but it doesn't really address number 2.
Okay, so already, you know, you might want to annotate this
Right.
document. Yep. And that's exactly what I did in the mapping process.
Right.
So for they
The
have
other thing
4,
is-
they have 4 discussions.
No, it's one discussion,
Okay.
but when this was created, I think what she did was she just broke down concepts that were being addressed within the discussion, but it's one discussion. There's one post with the introduction, but then there's one discussion that addresses these.
Great. So we have this mapped out to an introduction of the history of teaching and learning theories. So that's kind of the topic or what of the discussion. And then the other one, theories from other disciplines. So anything else? Are they doing any kind of paper or?
They're not doing a paper in this module. But the other thing that I realized that's happened, and it's probably happened in other courses, for instance, so I've taught this now a few times since this map was developed, and I've made changes within the course, but not updated a map. So this will be a good process in making sure the maps are current and still aligned.
Yeah. And, do you really need to do that? It's kind of takes a lot of time. So I think it's only when you're, there's a lot written about doing like small incremental changes each semester, or each time you teach. And maybe each time you teach, you'd want to just look at one of these, lesson maps and just take on one of those.
Because there's a lot that's changed in this course. So the map isn't like some of these videos have changed.
Right.
This is going on almost 3 years old now.
Yeah. So I'd say for next month when we meet, to have all the changes and everything in this map here, because what we're really going to do is look at the different type of learning activities that are in those output columns and say, okay, what's going on here and how can we make this maybe a little bit more engaging? So I think that'll be important for next time, is everybody has at least one of these modules mapped out like this.
Jill, sorry.
Go ahead, Laura.
Can I do one of my in-person courses
Sure.
with this course mapping?
Definitely. Do you have a Brightspace companion course used as a repository for students to look into?
This is all new to me. This is just completely new.
I think Damien can speak to that. Do all courses have can they have a Brightspace companion?
Yeah, all courses, online, hybrid, in person, always have a corresponding Brightspace course shell. And, the minimum they usually ask is that the syllabus be posted up there. But, part of this larger conversation about thinking about student workload is thinking about your own workload as well. And Brightspace can save you a lot of time and effort as far as having a place where students can submit work, where you can have a grade book. So it's always a great companion, even if you're face-to-face. If you want to put resources up there or video, post a lecture, it's just really helpful. And we automatically generate those regardless of modality.
And so, Lori, in our online main nursing, we have a template. So once those shells are generated, a template will go in that will have module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and has a grade book in it. So that could be something that you might want to create for, what the first time you do use your Brightspace. Here's module 1, here's the resources you need. But that can be something you can probably work with somebody in CTEL about to get you started on that. You probably already have those, right, Dean?
I definitely have all that. I have all the modules. I have all but I definitely have all that. But the course mapping piece where you're thinking about how you're teaching, because I'm new to education, I haven't thought about the meta piece of this.
Okay.
But I have beautiful bright spaces.
Oh, great. I thought you meant you hadn't done that at all.
And it's completely applicable to face-to-face. When you do develop online, there's a lot of work at the front end, to get your course set up right and having to think through intentionally about all the elements that are present. But that kind of process is definitely helpful for in-person too. So when those skills translate.
So the other two components on the checklist, we had time on task. So that's really going through and using that workforce calculator to make sure that your time looks okay. And then the other concept in there is chunked. So in the resources, there's a couple, there's a paper about why chunking matters. And chunking is just having bite-sized chunks of content within your online course, just as you might do with your in-person course, Laura, where you say you have this like little PowerPoint, then take a break, you know, and assignment that goes with it. So it's, I think people's brains really just want to chunk things and make sense and organize, and in a fully online course, that's so important to do. So things make sense in the course, and you can kind of wrap your brain around it and then do the actual learning instead of thinking about, okay, where everything is. And so there's a couple resources on that. Damien, do you have anything to say about how we might take a look at our map and determine if chunking is done appropriately?
Yeah, you know, a lot of times it tends to be kind of a discipline specific question as far as, you know, what concepts are foundational, what do students need to know before they can proceed to these newer concepts, you know, so how you scaffold that up is as much a part of chunking as it is. So it's really driven by, you know, there's good guidance around like sit time, you know, how long a video can be, how long until students start to, you know, fade away and not. So there's all those elements as far as creating your content and how to serve up your content in the right sizes. But I think too, it's important that it be based on your discipline and it be based on, you know, concepts and how they build up over time and where to find breaks in the content so that it's logical, there's a logical progression, that you've got your workload balanced across modules, but that the content drives modules more than timing. So I think that's an important thing to remember. And then Jill was kind of hitting on that idea of, so there's lots been written about cognitive overload. And so that starts with navigation. That starts with simple things in an online course site. Does it take a lot, you know, the hidden curriculum kind of stuff? Does it take a lot of effort to find out where assignments are posted? Does it take a lot of effort to see where you're supposed to turn things in? Our students can experience kind of a jarring, you know, between courses and where things are and what they're called and how to find them. So that's also part of thinking about chunking your content. So it's discipline specific, you know, it's about your content and about the concepts and how you build them up over time, but it's also about how you present them and how you arrange things and how you plan for ease of use. Like that's the user experience piece. That's why to recommend that you have a preview learner in your class list and all your course shells, and you can also switch to view as learner, and that can be super helpful. You know, if you're giving a course a last look and you're like, okay, what does this feel like if I'm a student? What does this look like? And you can walk through, you can use the preview learner to submit assignments and to just feel what it's like from the student side. And sometimes you surprise yourself when you see it from the other side. You're like, wait a minute, okay, maybe that is a bit much.
Linda, you have your hand up?
I just was curious in terms of proceeding. Should we proceed with the map that you've given us to use for this class versus working on the original course map and making revisions to that? I'm sort of trying to figure out where to start because I don't want to duplicate work as I'm revising this course.
I think it's personal preference. If you look in the resources, there's something that really works well with my brain, which is called a course blueprint, which I'll share with you. And so this is really if you're redoing a whole course, but if you're going to be redoing a whole course over time, it might make sense for you to use this little, let me see if I can get one out on one page there. use
Yeah.
this blueprint here. What I like about this is you can see the other modules and you can go through and you can compare them to something else, and you can make a note, here and annotate it. So I really like using this as a map, and you can put your
Yeah.
outcomes up there, your inputs here, and then these become your outputs here. And then you can have, leave
I might
yourself
need to do
notes there.
something. Yeah,
So
I might,
so
because I need the whole picture. I can only work by seeing the big picture. I
yeah,
have a really hard time in working with like just one section.
right.
So,
So that might work for you, but it's really however, your brain
Yeah,
works
okay.
best. If you want to see it just on that, on a row there using the that lesson
Yeah.
map that we had created, that's there too.
okay,
So it's
that helps. Also, I haven't met Laura. I've seen Laura in other meetings.
Hi, Linda. I'm Laura. I'm new last year, and I'm a nurse midwife, and Jeannie has just been so wonderful teaching me
Oh,
how to be a
wonderful.
teacher. Yeah, so I'm happy to be here. I'm still in practice.
Nice.
in
That's
Boston.
great.
I like it a lot.
I work part-time now. I used to work full-time.
Great. And your field is nurse educating?
Right now, my background is mostly gerontology, home care, hospice.
Awesome. Awesome.
I
I
saw
have
you had to go, Laura, but
I
thank
have
you so much. It was great to have you here.
This is great. I'm learning a lot, and I appreciate everyone's wisdom. And I'm gonna look at my courses a little different eyes.
Great.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, we
Bye-bye.
will
Nice
meet
to meet
again
you.
next month. Our meeting is on, let's see, November. Is that right? It's already November we're talking about. So November 14th at 11:15. And what I'll do is I will stop recording now, and I will post this recording for everybody to look at. So
That you showed us.
Yeah.
I just
so
started
video-
recording again. Jeannie had a great question about using video note.
Yeah, so Video Note is different than Zoom as far as it's embedded in Brightspace. It's a Brightspace tool. It's ready to go. Students can use it easily. So it doesn't take all those extra steps of recording the Zoom session, waiting for it to import to the cloud and get into. But if you were to be doing more of, a presentation, I would use Zoom, because with Video Note, you're not going to get the share features. So you couldn't share your screen, you couldn't walk through a PowerPoint, you can do those elements. But as far as like quick kind of, personal kind of videos or feedback, that's when it works really well.
Okay.
And the idea that it is also a tool available to students that allows you to put it in a lot of other places. But yeah, again, anywhere in Brightspace, if you put up a piece of content, you can just right quick, make a video note and attach it to that piece of content if you wanted to clarify or set things up. So
How's it saved and then inserted into where you want to put it? How is that done?
I mean, technically, I wouldn't use this way, but technically, when you do create a video note, once you stop recording, and that's the other thing too, you can't edit it. It's not like if you did something in Zoom, you could import it into Kaltura, you could edit it. So it's more of a straightforward thing. But once you finish recording it, it's going to ask you to name that video note.
Mhm.
So you as a user will have a video note library. So when you go to add a video note, whatever course you're in, it'll point to the ones that you have recorded in the past.
Okay.
So you could do that if you wanted to, but like I said, I think of it as more of a low stakes tool for like a quick, hey, everybody, or, a little clarification or some feedback, something like that, rather than I wouldn't try to deliver a lecture using it, where I was going to want other elements involved rather than just the headshot.
Okay, that works. I have an introductory kind of video presentation that I ask the students to do, and I see the usefulness in terms of inserting a comment that, the goal is to connect students to you in terms of not just the words, but, and I know some faculty use VoiceThread only, but looks like a nice tool. So thank you.
Suzanne?
Oh, just to add on to that. So I would like to use video note every week, when I do the announcements, because I think it's a lot of students are miss content when they have to read it. And so and that gets mailed out Monday morning at 6, the announcements every week. So would the video note also be emailed out?
Yeah, if you, again, anywhere you see that HTML in it, you'll see insert stuff. You can record it and it will embed it right into an email, and then that gets pushed out and it hits the student inboxes. There are situations where students have certain browsers or certain where it might not render for them, but the vast majority are going to get it right embedded in the email.
Thank you. See you next month, everyone.
Thanks, folks. Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Damien and Jill. This
Bye.
is very helpful.
Bye.
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 See you, Linda, in this near future.